Hey friends, Pete here from Rugged Outdoors Guide. Thank you for joining me today. Today we want to get right into the topic at hand because it's actually a fairly long one. I'm going to break it up into two different videos. If you guys have noticed, on the last couple videos ago that I did was about how to get sort of started in prepping, but the first three crucial things that you'll need, which is food, water, and some scenario whereby you are able to create your own food. I used a garden as an example, but I didn't get into too much detail, and that's only three things, right? This is sort of, I would call this the next step. Once you've got a good handle on those first three items, what else do you want to do? Well, really, it's virtually endless. You can do hundreds of things. I mean, really, you can get into so many things from like bug out shelters underground or who knows what. Some people dig underground shipping containers as a sort of a shelter to get away from the world. And we're not there yet, right? So we're still on the beginning stages. You guys who are maybe just looking to start, I've got a list of about 21 things. It could be 25, it could be 20, whatever. But I came up with 21 things that you need to do as sort of the next step, and they're relatively inexpensive. It's not totally 100% cheap or free, certainly, but it's not some of those huge, massive things that you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on for prepping, right? So, guys, if you appreciate videos kind of like this that'll help you in your prepping journey, please do give me a like and a subscribe. That will help get this video out there. Okay. Let's get into it. Number one, I would suggest getting heirloom seeds. Now I've got a package here of seeds. The best type to get is heirloom. I don't want to get into all the details of what heirloom is as opposed to the stuff you buy at Walmart on the little rack by the checkout counter. Heirloom just means that it's been around for a long time and the seeds are stable. They're not a hybrid, which means that you can expect the same result year after year for whatever it is that you're growing. A hybrid seed, the cheap kind for like $1 for like 10,000 seeds at the checkout counter at Walmart, those may or may not even produce vegetables or whatever at all. And we've had some that produce okay one year, and then the next year, when I used the seeds, I got a really nice plant, big leaves, everything really nice, but there was no vegetable. So they're just not consistent. So I would stick with heirloom seeds. A good company would be Baker Creek is one example. There are others. You can just Google it online and it's just easy to come by a number of companies that will provide you heirloom seeds. Number two, I would suggest, these are not related to one another, by the way. They're just sort of random. Paracord. Paracord is crucial, and we have so much of it. I just grabbed a handful of this stuff that I just unwound. I had this on my camping trip recently. But any sort of paracord is going to be helpful for just endless reasons. So we have probably a couple hundred yards of it all told in different lengths and sizes and styles. You just can't have too much of it. There's no such thing. Okay, number three, I would suggest a first aid kit. Now that might seem pretty, obvious, but I'm talking about a first aid kit that has a lot of variety in it. I'm not talking about, the first aid kits you get at, wherever for $3 or $5 or $10 that are like this big, and all they have is like 2 Band-Aids in them. I'm talking about something substantial. You can get them, of course, on Amazon. And by the way, as you would expect, I have links to all these different things. The things that I would suggest, I've done my own research on them, and I've okayed them. By the way, there's another website that I run. It's not as active anymore. It's called sportconsumer.com, and the reason I just tell you that, you can check it out and see if you are interested in anything there. It reviews 3,000 sports products. The reason I mention it is just to say that I do have a lot of experience researching. So anything that I recommend here in this channel, it's decent. All right. So a first aid kit, you're probably looking at something that's going to cost you $30 or more dollars. I'm just thinking something that has a lot of variety. So things like splints, because you might be in a scenario where there's no hospital or no easy access to a hospital. So I'm not talking just Band-Aids. All right, so as much as you can get in your first aid kit, I've researched, I've got some links below on some good examples. All right, number 4, I would strongly suggest you get something fairly decent by way of outdoor clothing. I just have one example here of one of my raincoats that is also breathable. But there are so many types of clothing. I'm not going to feature them all today. It's impossible. But just something that fits your part of the country and a particular season, right? Are you getting ready in South Florida or are you in Montana? Is it summer or is it winter? Okay, obviously that will make a difference. Great example, I came across a pair of pants that's literally called outdoor pants. That's it. And you can see them on Amazon. My pair had sort of a smoother exterior, so it's not going to pick up every burr in the forest as you walk. And it had like tough knees on it, so I mean you're going to be kneeling, and that's a stress point. But it's also fleece lined, so it is excellent for cold weather, and it's okay for weather that's not so cold. Not great if it's really hot, middle of summer, but you get my point, right? Massage it a bit, get something that works for you, and make it tough, outdoors oriented. I wouldn't really suggest a pair of jeans or tennis shoes, for example. All right, number 5 is related to kind of what I just said. Tough outdoor clothing. Well, number 5 is something like camp gear. All right, so now when you're bugging out, I don't even like using that term, but you know what I'm saying, where you have to leave your house, for example, what are you doing? Essentially, you're camping, right? So camping gear is excellent. So whether you can bring a stove along, or if it's just a small twig stove or a propane stove or whatever, that's an example. But there are all kinds of things like water filters, for example, sleeping gear. I would suggest a very good tent if you can afford one, something that can fit a number of people and can fit a bunch of gear in it as well. And I would strongly suggest, I mean, I know everything has to do with money, right? But if you can afford it, get a better quality tent. So like there are a lot of good names, but something like Marmot is an excellent name, or Columbia, for example. But Walmart name brand, whatever you get there, you got to be very careful, right? So I would strongly suggest a higher quality name brand, which will give you weather protection that is just unrivaled. Okay, number 6, I'm going to go with tough plastic sacks, bags, etc. So right here, I have what's called a drum liner. All right, you don't need to see that anymore. It's just a big, huge black plastic bag. It's from Costco. It's called a drum liner, and it's just a garbage bag, but it's tougher. It's just all around tougher. I mean, I could wear the thing, put a hole in it, wear it as a rain gear, and it's big enough that you put a couple of them together and it becomes almost like a full-sized small tarp that you can put underneath you or whatever. So again, just like the Paracord, the uses for this are virtually endless. You can keep stuff out of the weather. That's kind of one of the main things. You can keep it dry, whether it's food or clothing, whatever it is. And again, really cheap, but crucial, crucial, crucial. All right, number 7, camp stove and fuel. Now, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it deserves its own kind of topic. So you can have something as modest as a twig stove. This fits pretty tightly. So this little thin package, you can hardly see it when I turn it on its end. It's filled with a couple of metal frame pieces, and together it features when you put it together, it's just a small twig stove. If you've never heard of it, it's quite literally a stove that you operate or that gets fueled by twigs. And you can find those twigs just about anywhere. You can go to your hedge in your urban neighborhood and probably find enough sticks to keep it going. So this comes with me on every single camping trip. This is from Uberleben, and it is a waxed pouch. So it's got some weather protection, and this will work everywhere, anytime, even if you run out of fuel. Or you can get a camp stove that runs on propane, like this. I'm down to my last container, so I got to replenish that. but that's also another good scenario. You just need something to heat up water, which will be the base for you being able to eat much of the food we have in storage, or that you have in storage, which I featured on my last video. We're talking things like oats and beans and pasta, those types of things that are really shelf stable for a long period of time. I'm starting to see now that I probably focus on the pastas because that can be done a lot quicker. So like ramen, any types of macaronis or spaghettis or linguinis, whatever it is, as long as it's dry and well protected from any sort of bugs and mites that can get into even the dry pasta, you should be good for years and years of storage. All right, number 8, good foot protection. All right, and when I say good foot protection, I mean 2 things. Number 1, I mean socks that are going to protect your feet really well, like the number 1 choice, of course, would be merino wool. But merino wool, pure merino wool socks are really expensive. I mean, you could spend quite literally hundreds of dollars for 1 pair of socks. Or more reasonably, you're looking at about $50. But seriously, $50 for 1 pair. You can get other socks that feel just as good for like $10 for 5 pairs, right? So obviously the more you spend, the better quality you're going to get. And I only own 1 pair of merino wool socks because they are expensive, but the quality is excellent. They wick very well. They keep your feet warm no matter if they're wet or dry. And then with the socks, a good pair of shoes. Now I have a really good pair of hiking boots, but they're light and maneuverable. These are from Scarpa. There are many companies that make them, but these ones are pretty good. These ones are, they have the Vibram sole, which is kind of important because that's kind of the mark of a better quality shoe, right? Vibram, if you don't know, it's got a little yellow logo. You can check that out if you've never heard of it. Just remember that. And these happen to be they're lined, and they even feel like they have got a bit of insulation. So they're not great in the middle of summer. They will make your feet warm, but in the autumn weather, anything other than the deepest winter, they're perfect. So of course you want to tailor your good footwear to your environment. Again, I like using South Florida or North Montana. Right? They're going to be different environments, and so anyway, use your common sense, but anyway, that's really important. If your feet are not comfortable, everything else just kind of falls apart when what happens, hits the fan. You want something that makes your feet comfortable, and from there, things seem to be able to fall into place. You're all around, you're in better condition, you can deal with your food scenario and your shelter scenario a lot better with warm, dry, comfortable feet that are not getting blisters. Okay, number 9, you got to get some good old-fashioned bleach. Now, I don't like bleach from the perspective that it is not a natural product in any way. This Clorox stuff, it's that. But we're talking survival here, all right? And bleach can be used for a whole lot of things. One of the biggest is that it can disinfect water. Right? So, and it's really, really, really inexpensive compared to a lot of the other stuff I've mentioned. So it's never a bad idea to have probably 2 or 3 of this kind of full-size containers. This one's, I'm in Canada, so it's 3.57 liters, but whatever it is. The big jugs, get 2 or 3 of them, and you'll be fine in terms of having to disinfect water in the worst case scenario. You might not use it a lot, but in any case, it's inexpensive. So it is one of the standard things that if you do more research and you get into this more in terms of prepping, it's one of the things pretty much on every prepper's list. All right, number 10, I actually don't have an example of this right now. That's okay. You don't need me to show you an example. You know what it is. We're talking just plain old vodka. Now, vodka, you might be saying, well, what in the heck, vodka? What are you going to do? Drink yourself into a drunken stupor to forget your problems? Well, believe it or not, that's actually one of the uses that is not ridiculous. What I mean is you don't do that, but you can use it for a lot of things. I'll just go through a really quick list here for bartering. Some people might want it to get drunk and forget about their problems. Whatever the case is, it's been used for bartering before, and it could be like that in the future. So that's one of the uses. But I've got a whole, I wish I had a teleprompter, because then I could just stare at you and be nice and professional, but I don't. So I'm going to use this piece of paper and tell you just some of the things that vodka is good for. I'm not really a drinker, so I don't use vodka a lot at all, but I understand some of these things. First of all, it's really shelf stable. So that's a starting point as to why you might want some vodka. The other thing is it's a really, really good disinfectant. And I'm not talking just disinfectant for water, which was probably one of the biggest things that I just mentioned. Clorox, bleach can be for that, but vodka is a good one. And it's not like poison like bleach can be. So it's a disinfectant for water, but it's also a disinfectant for anything else, like medical utensils and tools that you want in your first aid kit, which I mentioned earlier. It's a great disinfectant. Also for direct disinfection of wounds. Won't feel nice, but it is a disinfectant. So another reason you can have a good supply of vodka on hand. Another reason is that it is good as a lamp fuel. Yeah, really. I didn't know that, but it is. I don't want to get into too many details here. I'm just throwing these out at you. It is good for a food preservative. I know that it can be used to preserve fruits, for example, like cherries, but other ones as well, right? So it's a food preservative as well. Believe it or not, get this, it's an insect repellent. But it's not a toxic insect repellent like slathering DEET all over your body, all right? So, hey, that in and of itself might be a good enough reason to get vodka. The other thing is that I really thought was really cool is that, well, sorry, let me just say this. It's good for preparing tinctures. Now, I'm not going to get into all that, but it's, again, it's medicinal in that respect. But also, if you add it to honey, it's great as a cough medicine. I mean, and I haven't even told you all the things, right? But you can, again, you can do your own research, which leads me into the next one, number 11, honey. If you mix it with vodka, it's a good cough medicine, but honey in and of itself has so many health benefits I can't even get into. I'm not even going to waste any more time other than to say it's very, very shelf stable. It has been and can be used for bartering, and it's nutrient dense, I should say specifically calorie dense. So again, a good survival type of food along with whatever else you have. This will last longer. You guys know that they found perfectly honey in perfect shape in like the tombs of the pharaohs. So we're talking shelf stable to the extreme and very valuable for the things that I've just mentioned as bartering. And oh, by the way, it's a disinfectant as well. So much like vodka, you can put this directly on a wound and it has been used as a disinfectant. So you gotta get some honey. All right, I said this was a list of 21, but I've already gone overtime already, so we're going to split this into two. I've done 10, and we're going to do another 11 next time. So guys, if you appreciate this type of information, I know it's flying at you fast and furious, but do give me a like and a subscribe. And in my heart, I'm giving you a like and a subscribe too, because I appreciate that. It gets the word out quicker. Thanks for watching, guys, and until the next time, God bless you, and do get out there and enjoy His creation.